The only thing you can trust the European Union to do is to cheat. When we left, we did an agreement with the EU, a free trade deal, free of tariffs and free of quotas. This was part of our departure package, and we agreed that, and in return, we promised to pay billions of pounds of commitments that had been made before we left that we had no legal obligation to make. We agreed to give settled status to the citizens of EU member states who were resident in the United Kingdom, and we did our best to help the European Union deal with our departure in as friendly a way as possible. And we helped them with their Irish problem, not a problem for us, a matter for the Irish dealing with EU law. We gave them a great deal that we didn't need to give them. And part of the reason for doing this was to maintain free trade with them. Free trade that incidentally helps them much more than it helps us. The trade deficit with the EU in both 2023 and in 2024 was jolly nearly £100 billion. That's £100 billion of goods extra that we buy from them than that they buy from us. Free trade was overwhelmingly in their interest. Now, as you know, I believe that free trade, one-way free trade, is economically sensible, that tariffs simply make things more expensive for your own consumers, they increase input costs for your manufacturers, and that the economy without tariffs will be the most prosperous one. However, we live in a world of reciprocal free trade deals. We've seen that with what Donald Trump has been doing, with Donald Trump putting tariffs on countries that he felt didn't trade fairly with them. And I think we've reached the point where we've got to say to the EU, frankly, we don't trust you. We don't think you will play by the rules. And our position is stronger than you think. Even when you come down to steel, in steel we have a deficit of about £1 billion a year with them. They buy £3 billion worth of steel from us, and we buy £4 billion worth of steel from them. So let's put a pro rata tariff on EU steel. And let's buy our steel from elsewhere, because the issue is not that EU steel is uniquely good, uniquely available. We can get it from other countries, and we don't have to put tariffs on them. We can just put tariffs on the EU. And you may squeal about the WTO, but the WTO does allow you to be reciprocal. And anyway, it takes years for the WTO to make a decision. And we could do this long before the WTO could get around to doing anything about it. These things could then be argued, taken through the courts, but we need to act now. And we should act robustly and recognize the truth of the position that the EU takes, but it never gives. It wants to take everything it can from us. It's still, of course, angry that we left their frightful project to create a single European state. They're still upset with us for that, and therefore we should be absolutely ruthless in our response. But we shouldn't just do it with steel. The reset that Starmer has agreed should be given up, because it's a reset that helps Europe, not the United Kingdom. We should be absolutely clear that there will be no extra fish for the EU, that when the current agreement expires, the fishing waters will go back in their totality to the UK. We've tended to play with Europe by the Queensberry rules, whilst they've been playing by an anything goes set of rules. Therefore, we have given in to them, we have behaved in a gentlemanly fashion, and this simply isn't the right way to deal with the EU. We need to know what we want and focus on the British national interest. And that means responding when they are difficult with us. We should pull out of the Windsor framework, which treats Northern Ireland so disgracefully. You may have seen the ridiculous story about vegan sausage rolls. I'm not sure I would like a vegan sausage roll, but apparently they can sell them in Northern Ireland if they're sausage rolls made vegan style in Great Britain and then exported to Northern Ireland. But if you're a vegan sausage roll maker in Northern Ireland, you can't now sell them as sausage rolls under a rule passed by the European Parliament very recently. This is all silly. The Northern Irish should be welcomed fully as part of the United Kingdom, not treated as servants, as a colony of the European Union, abiding by the European Union's rules. And we should be clear that the issue of the Irish border is a matter for the EU, not for the UK. That the EU can put up a border if it wants to, but we're not going to. What we've done with Northern Ireland is of no benefit at all to the United Kingdom, not an iota of benefit to the United Kingdom. It is all about helping the European Union deal with its single market. Well, I don't care about the European single market's integrity. That is not my problem. That is their problem. It is for them to deal with. And if they are so worried about goods being smuggled over the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, that is their problem, not my problem. And so we should say to them, we're cancelling the whole Windsor framework. We are going to reintegrate the Northern Irish economy with the whole UK economy. We're going to allow it to follow UK rules. And if you want to put up a border, well, you do that, because it will be a Republic of Ireland border, not a Northern Irish border. We will continue to allow free movement across the whole of Ireland, because we think that is in the interests both of peace and indeed of the people in both countries. We have to remember that we should put the British national interest first. And consistently in Europe, we felt that we should give something to make progress in the negotiations. Well, we shouldn't. We should be blunter and more clear about it. And steel is a fantastic tipping point, in my view, that it shows once again that the EU, when it makes a deal, will not stick to it, that an EU deal is only as good as the EU thinks it will be. And as soon as they feel that it's not what they want, they will break it. So we sit around following agreement after agreement whilst they do what they like. And I think we should simply say, enough is enough. The time has come to retaliate fully and recognize that what we buy from them is of value to them, that it creates jobs in the European Union, and that we should look very cleverly at the areas that are most politically potent. What are the things that create the most problems in the European Union if their trade is hampered? Fish is obviously one of them. The French fishermen are notoriously aggressive, and that's why we should certainly stop them coming into British waters. We should stop them coming in as soon as we possibly can. I think the deal ends next year, and at that point, it should be over. We might also say, you can't come take our fish if you don't take back your illegal immigrants who are coming over the channel from France. And again, ought to be your problem, not ours. We need to show strength, because the EU is good at showing strength. In a way, half of me admires the way the EU behaves, because it gets what it wants, whereas we keep on giving in. We keep on sort of rolling over, waiting to have our tummy tickled, as if we are the lapdog of the Commission, even though we've left. And this is the sort of Stockholm syndrome that our bureaucracy and the Foreign Office suffer from, that they do not seem to be bold in promoting the interests of our country. They seem to prefer to promote the interests of the European Union. And it won't do us any harm, because if you take this £100 billion worth of goods deficit that we have, we can buy those goods from elsewhere. We can buy them from countries that will make them more cheaply. We can take away more tariffs and quotas on other countries to allow them to supply us with the goods we need. But we can also help rebuild our own manufacturing base, because we allowed the EU essentially to hollow out the UK, to make regulations, as Sir James Dyson has pointed out, that supported German manufacturers and damaged British ones, that tried to protect the market for goods of continental countries that weren't beneficial to the United Kingdom. So we can change all of that. It is a freedom that we have. And this government's got it completely wrong. It's going for a reset, a closer relationship with the EU, when the EU is moribund. It is yesterday's story. It is a failed institution. We need to be looking globally and not allowing the EU to squeeze us dry. Indeed, the more we embrace the EU, the worse our position gets, because the longer we make it possible for the EU to treat us in this way, to damage our national interest. We must stand up for ourselves. We must recognize that the institutions of the European Union are not friends of the United Kingdom and never were. During our period of membership, they took us for all they could get. Now we've left, they are redoubling their efforts. Let us redouble ours. The time has come to retaliate on tariffs, to stop things coming in that they are charging us to export to them, and of course, to take back our fish, because that is a powerful card to play politically, as well as being the right thing to do in support of the fishermen of the United Kingdom. Thank you for watching.